Hey everybody, it's Fish and I'm bringing you another Company of Heroes video. I have yet to upload the last one I did. However, the last one I did was me and Corby versus two normal computers. Today we played a game, and I don't think I'm gonna show it just because it wasn't too exciting. And as we were playing, it was me, Corby, and Ace. And Corby was running British. Me and Ace were both running American. And to sum it up, Ace dropped out because of bullshit internets, and me and Corby kind of had to pick up the slack. And it was a relatively good game because it was a 3v3. Computer didn't do much at all other than produce units. In any case, Corby and I won basically a very good match. It was a very good matchup because as when they started pushing, we pushed back, we took it over. It was a great game. I really enjoyed it. And then I said, hey Corby, nigga, we should try our luck against an expert computer. And he's like, Fish, you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, well, if we do it with the Germans, if we do it with against Americans, and only one expert, or yeah, expert extreme, whatever, American side, and we do it with one that has water, and Corby picked the best map, if you ask me, and it was, you know, we played it, and spoilers, we actually beat the computer, but the journey getting there was just sort of fun because it's one of those games where it was kind of nerve-wracking because you know you're going up against something so crazy, and yet it was also extremely fun to do because we actually had some great units. So I was here playing as normal Germans, and Corby was playing as the Panzer Elite, and what I kind of want to show is what the other side did. More so, I don't know how much of the screen is being recorded. So basically, they kind of spanned out, and they got their guys over here. And our idea was, hey, water, cover the bridges. There's three bridges in the front. This one and this one up here can actually be destroyed, and this one cannot. So this was kind of our biggest problem. And yeah, so Corby scared him off, and these guys are just taking territories like they're supposed to. We were doing very good on taking territories. Again, this is the expert. You can maybe see that we did fight against an expert. Anyway, again, we won. It's just it's a fun game because it was so, like, at any moment you could just expect them to pull something out of their ass, and it freaks you the fuck out. But it was relatively fun just being able to amass certain amounts of units. So then this is the enemy I'm observing right now, and these assholes took this down, and I didn't have enough. I was either in the process of upgrading it, or I didn't have enough munitions. Down here it says I have 44 munitions. If you cannot see it, if the DX Story decides to cut it off, but I have 1,500 manpower. So what we're really trying to do is get a handle, and I got this here. He's got an anti-infantry gun. These guys should have gotten wrecked, and I should specify that the enemy went paratrooper, and that really just sort of made this all the more difficult. I'm glad they didn't go armor, but the paratrooper thing made it so if they have this point for 5 minutes, that means they can spawn as many units on as they need to. And I'm actually kind of interested to see how much manpower they had. So they have 600 manpower, 70 and 70 munitions. So they started making a push here, as you can see. I'm observing the computer's perspective. they started making a relatively good push, and it was just because they were getting units in. This side, this has an MG. That we took a little longer than we should have to get a thing up, and then this one we had up, and then he had that. I also managed to get down here. Now, I knew this bridge could be repaired. I knew that it could be an infantry-only zone, and I wasn't too worried about it, but I did put an MG here just because if any infantry are going to come at it, I'm going to have a first line of defense here. And that's one of my anti-infantry. I got it in there because they have these recoilless rifles. And unfortunately, I actually lose my vehicle because of their fucking recoilless rifles. So it's not hard to say that if you know how to play paratrooper, you can fuck shit up. And then they start moving these anti-tanks. Now, the computer went very anti-tank here, which is kind of okay because Corby, being the Panzer Leets, actually has some good anti-tank and anti-infantry that he can sway either way. But luckily he got these guys up here well enough to do that. So not necessarily now, but I'll show you when. We decided, and they've got these two motherfuckers. We decided that it's probably better not to roll tanks and just roll infantry. And these are his Panzer Grenadiers. And then these crazy motherfuckers, the I couldn't read it, it's Fallishmere or something of that sort. And so again, we chose this map because we thought, hey, bridges, we just have to control them and we'll be good. And then Corby's playing as the Panzer Lead, so he has the Luftwaffe ground forces. The Luftwaffe, for those of you who don't know, are actually it's the German Air Force, but it's the Luftwaffe ground force. So how does the Air Force on the ground? It's actually an anti-air sort of artillery thing that he can place as a special ability. The Fallschirm infiltration, this will come into play a little bit later, and the airdrop SD2 butterfly bombs, which were basically like putting anti-infantry mines just on the ground where he so chose, and that was kind of fun to use. So as you can see, I'm spectating the Corby right now. He had a lot of units, but they weren't necessarily the best. And I think these are my Knights Cross because everybody knows that the Knights Cross are the bitchinest motherfuckers. I don't know if it'll show me. Let me switch to me real quick. Ba-ba-bum. It won't show me. I actually had these Knights Cross fully upgraded by the time I put them into battle, so they have great evasion, they have great damage, if you will, and Corby's just returning his guys so as to keep from losing a lot of people. He built a lot of buildings solely because with the Panzer Elite, from what I'm told, I tell these guys to just go and blow that up. It didn't have much health, but from what I know about the Panzer Elites, they're very slow to build. You know how the Americans, you go armor, it's like, oh, slow to build, but once you get them, they're awesome. They're trying to take these 2 points. Well, from what I know, the Panzer Elite's very similar, except even harder, because everything is on an upgrade system. So you have all your units, you just have to get them to the point where they can do stuff, such as moving them from normal SMGs that like the engineers would have to these rifles, and I don't even know what rifles they have. I don't have it, Corby does, but and then they have these SMGs. They look like FG-42s, to be quite frank with you, but I don't know. And so anyway, Corby's units really helped out a lot, and it was actually a little bit before this, but there were some paratroopers might actually drop down here. So maybe I'm not too early. Anyway, or not too late, sorry. Some paratroopers dropped down here because we didn't take this point as soon as possible. I think I went for that point and wanted to defend this shit. Yeah, no, these two squads actually fucked shit up, quite honestly. We're just gonna watch this for a second, show you what happens. And then I say, let's bomb the bridge! And I lost all of my units. So the bridge is gone, and sooner or later I will get a sniper on there, so if I don't remember to show it, I did have a sniper on. I think I had two snipers over here and one sniper over here, just to make sure that they didn't repair the bridge. And over here, I wasn't too worried, because even if they repaired it, all they were going to do was funnel fucking infantry through into this just killing fields. Like, see this little 3-meter distance? The killing fields. Right here is what I was talking about before. These paratroopers drop on this point, and they start running away. And I'm chasing my guys, and they're like, and Corby says, retreating, ha, right into my anti-infantry. He's like, I'm patrolling that shit, motherfuckers, right? And it was kind of funny, but then they get down here, and then I have to fight him. It's a whole ordeal. I'm not sure what they're doing. I think at one point they actually took advantage. See this? I don't know if my mouse is showing up. This little red thing over the bridge that they control. If I recall, at some point in time, they dropped paratroopers on the edge of the red, and this machine gun just mowed them down. But again, I wasn't too worried about them coming, because it would have just dominated everything. And then they try to... It might have been a recon. So I wasn't too worried about this. If anything, it would just cost them more units, and something funny actually happens with that later, and we will show that. But let's focus a little bit on the enemy, show what their heading is. At this point, we're just trying to maintain the points. He's got an anti-air, and this is 88mm flak, and this is actually like the cannons that they used at D-Day in order to stop our tanks and our ships. You know, it's a fucking powerhouse. And if I recall, yes, it's AT and AA at the bottom, which is anti-tank and anti-air. Kind of confusing, because what do you call anti-infantry if anti-tank is AA? There's my sniper, just watching here. But got a few units back here. But anyway, we tried to fortify as best we could. Unfortunately, this was actually in the way, so some of these couldn't shoot as often as they wanted to. But it's not that big of a deal. So anyway, I'm actually kind of new to what the NPC was doing. It looks like he didn't have a lot of units, but what he did have was anti-tank. And when a little later on, we find like a bunch of anti-tanks, so we say, hey, fucking don't roll tank, Fish. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Corby's units, I'm not sure how Corby's Panzer Elites, I'm not sure how that rolls exactly. What I do know is it takes him a long time to build up his strength, and when he finally does reach full potential, he gets some crazy shit, and I don't think he created it yet. But so at this point, I had to start fortifying and putting some observation points down, and so we just started developing stuff. Doesn't look like the computer did that. Makes me a little interested as to why it's an expert computer. And let's see, what can we look at? This one engineer just getting fucked. What is that? I don't know what that was. I see that these guys were chilling here. I want to know what makes this expert computer so good. I guess they expected us to roll with tanks, because, like, look at this shit. And even then, it was like Corby's units. I think he can take an anti-tank, like a tank destroyer route. He can take a, I believe there's a tank destroyer, and then there's the one where he can just have tanks. And then I think there's the one where it's more infantry heavy. And he only has a few units. He doesn't have snipers or any of that, if you're unaware. But what he did have was the engineer type, or pioneer type for the Germans. And the other type, which was sort of like he could spawn them from these medic bases. And I'll see if it tells me what it is. That little symbol there, those are my guys. No, those are Corby's Panzer Grenadiers. So this was basically a med station. Anytime any of our guys were near it, it would heal it, and he could spawn units from that. I have these two snipers here, making sure they can't repair the bridge, and this middle bridge is actually fucking set for life. which is fun. And this is the point where me and Corby were talking. We're like, okay, we got a bunch of points fortified. You know, this is really fun. I ended up getting all of them, don't you worry. We said this is a lot of fun. I'm mass producing these Knights Cross. He is, if I recall, I think he was just fortifying and getting some units. And I'll show you what some fun shit happens soon, and I'll point that out when I notice it. Yeah, this thing. He tells me it's a normal tank. It's better versus anti-infantry, but it can take out. It's kind of anti-infantry, but it can take out. It does that too. I should point out that these are add-ons to this tank. He gets this tank, the Hot Kiss, the Hotchkiss. It's the Hot Kiss. I should point out it's a normal tank. It's anti-infantry, but it's also relatively good at taking out jeeps or other anti-infantry just because it has a smaller yet effective cannon. And he gets these little add-ons that let him do that rocket barrage, and it's fucking terrifying if you ask me. Oh, here's what's funny. Corby has the ability, it's right here, to spawn enemies or spawn people inside of their units in some random building. He just puts it down. It's fucking crazy. So he goes up and I drop an artillery strike. Blah 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 blah. But and see, now I forgot what I was saying. I know I was talking about. He was setting up that. I was setting up the anti everything with the Knights Cross. We start bombarding this. Is fucking great. So fucking, what was I saying? I forget. I apologize for being bad at commentating, but they have this building right here. So Corby could, honest to God, just spawn some people there. And then I could use my V1 or my Firestorm to just destroy this. And we actually end up doing that. But if I could recall what I was saying. Oh, now I remember. Thank you for reminding me, Brain. You're welcome, Fish Kilroy. At this point in time, we were really excited. It's that fun period where it's like you're fighting an easy computer and you have enough time to build units up the fucking ass. You just amass so many of them. Look at all these units. They're just fun. It's just fun to have a lot of units. And I unlocked the King Tiger, and I remember telling Corby, I said, okay, Corby, I just got the King Tiger. He's like, oh yeah. And then the reason Corby was uninterested was because he had already unlocked fucking everything on his side, right? But main point being, it was really just sweet being able to create an amass of units, to be able to actually have a latency period where you can just sort of start rebuilding. It's like having those fortifications that you need and not having to worry. And what made this really interesting was you have the leisure of being like, okay, I made great defenses. I have a good barrier between us and them. And you know, I can just start producing. I can start working behind my lines, not wasting anything on anything. And Corby spawns in people and spawns in people in this building or that building, and he killed some of these anti-tank, and then he starts taking these buildings and taking these points so we can increase our population cap. But again, it feels good to be able to make so many units and just feel so secure. But at the same time, you're worried because you don't know what the fucking expert computer has in mind. You don't know how extreme he is. You don't know what you're going to have to face.